How's it going, everyone? Ryan Schremp here with ToplessRobot.com. Just thanking you for listening to this podcast, and I wanted to let you know that we're building a podcast network. We currently have 3 podcasts: Animated Opinions, Cosmic Love, and Topless Robot Podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast, please check out our other podcasts. And if you're enjoying these podcasts, it would mean a lot to us if you look us up on iTunes and leave a review. That way other people can find our podcasts. Or share it with your best friend. Nothing's better than sharing podcasts that are awesome with people who are awesome. So, thanks for listening, and here's the episode.
ToplessRobot.com presents...
You're listening to Animated Opinions, the only podcast that runs at a buttery smooth 24 frames a second. I'm Melanie.
And I'm Emily.
And today we have for you, from the one guy locked in a closet who brought you the robots and Transformers and Atlantic Rim, comes his biggest nervous breakdown yet, Izzie's Way Home.
You mean Transmorphers, the superior version of Transformers.
Oh, did I say Transformers?
Yeah, but to be fair, they kind of are the same movie, so...
Well, that's what I get for reading.
Never read. Everything is improv. It's basically a podcast of yes and.
That's very true.
So, speaking of yes anding your way into something, Izzie's Way Home exists.
You made me watch it.
I did. See, I feel like we had to get back to the roots of what we originally wanted this podcast to be in the year of our Lord 2019, which was bad animated movies. And I feel like we didn't watch enough bad animated movies, so we really needed to up our bad movie game.
I'm going to get you back later this season. You're not ready to watch Dougal.
I don't think that Dougal will be worse than this.
You're not emotionally prepared for Dougal.
I wasn't emotionally prepared for Izzie's Way Home, and here we fucking are.
That's a good point. I was not emotionally prepared for this movie.
I think my problem is excuse me. I burped because I drank alcohol. I know, I'm sorry. I think that my problem is I didn't anticipate how bad this would be, because I was kind of leaning more towards it would just be like bad CG, not terrible, awful, disgusting CG, just bad, like you would find in an Asylum film such as Sharknado, Transmorphers, Atlantic Rim, Geodisaster, etc., etc.
What we didn't know was that this was their first animated movie.
Oh no, I knew that.
Okay, what we didn't know was that I didn't know this was their first animated movie.
I was very into this movie prior to us watching it, just because I love the Asylum and their films. They're just bad, and I love them. I love bad sci-fi movies. So when they announced in 2016 that they were going to make feature animated movies, fully animated, not just the bad VFX, bad in general movies, I was like, hell yeah. Because, you know, you can produce decent looking CG animation on a low budget, and if you've got a team of like 20 to 30 people, you can make a pretty solid movie.
That is very fair. This movie was not that solid movie, but...
Oh, it was none. It was bad.
In the classic Asylum fashion, it was a mockbuster for Finding Dory. Which, you know, a mockbuster is when a film comes out that's similar to another film that is about to come out. Specifically to trick grandmas. I'm convinced that this entire genre of film exists specifically to trick very kind grandmas.
Very kind grandmothers, people with eye problems, and parents who are rushed in the store knowing that their kid wanted to watch whatever that fish movie with the girl fish was, and they're at the checkout line and they panic because they didn't have any in Redbox, but oh look, there's one right here.
Good enough.
Basically, it's basically like if your parents didn't love you enough and all you have ever seen of like a Disney movie is the direct to video sequels that came out.
I would argue that all $20,965 of this movie's total domestic video sales are from parents who didn't love their children enough.
Yeah, or grandparents who were just dumb.
Yes, those poor grandparents. I love them. They're very pure.
Yep, so the studio is bad. Sorry, I love the studio, but they're also bad. Slip of the tongue. So this movie is bad. It is their first animated movie, and it's slightly more coherent than the Studio Brincato films, shockingly. And we can only assume that it's because this whole production takes place in Los Angeles, specifically in the Burbank area. And I'm pretty sure it's like 2 rooms in an office building in Burbank. And yeah, I think I'm going to make the statement. I think it looked just as bad, if not worse, than Ratatouille and Little Panda Fighter.
Yeah. I am going to go on a limb and say that it looked 2% better than those films. The characters were all designed, and they all clearly were designed by like a team of people that had seen each other before.
So the character designer is also the director, is also one of the animators.
Oh, buddy. Oh.
No, I watched through the credits and I looked up the pedigrees of every single person.
Oh, buddy. This movie made me so sad.
Do you want to know what made you even more sad?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Unreal Engine 4.
Unreal Engine 4 is one of the best engines in video game development right now. It's a fantastic out-of-the-box solution for creating 3D games, especially if you're an indie producer or if you're otherwise, like, not a person who has access to an entire render farm and a bunch of software. You can get Unreal Engine 4 and make a coherent-looking 3D game that's pretty good. It comes with lighting effects, it comes with particle effects, it's got built-in textures that don't look like ass. Unreal Engine 4 is genuinely very powerful and a fantastic product straight out of the box.
Also, this is not the fake advertisement. This is just how Mel happens to feel about Unreal Engine 4.
I do love Unreal Engine 4. However, this movie takes Unreal Engine 4 and spits in its eye because apparently this whole film was entirely produced in Unreal Engine 4, and the only reason that I even slightly believe that is because there are in-production photos of this film that are present on a Variety article and a Cartoon Brew article covering this movie when it was announced that are very clearly stock lighting and assets from Unreal Engine 4 with these characters on it. And that's the only reason I believe it.
Also, they slap the Unreal Engine 4 logo at the end of the credits, and they also had an Unreal 4 developer, I believe. Let me just scroll. I made note of it because I thought it was so funny. I'll obviously cut out all my dallying. Yeah, they had somebody who was in charge of Unreal Engine 4 integration. I did not get the name on that, nor will we be naming too many names when it comes to this movie, or any names at all. Unless it was a direct quote from somebody given in an article. We're not providing names.
It's very polite of you, because I wouldn't want to be named if I had accidentally worked on this production. It's really sad to look at.
It would not be my point of pride. Speaking of which, it was their point of pride.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately. So the CEO, David Rimawi, Rimawi, the CEO, said, "We are extremely excited to be part of what is going to be a quantum leap in terms of animation production," said technical director Ron Thornton. Izzie's Way Home is a really fun project that has attracted a great team of young artists and technicians from all across the US. We're totally redesigning how to make an animated movie at not only the artistic and technical levels, but at a whole new level of production methodology.
It didn't work.
I'm sorry, Ron. There's a reason that this formula works. And it's because it makes good movies.
Ron. Ron. You made this piece of garbage. You gotta live with it now.
I'm sure it's doable. Like, I'm sure that somebody out there is making a movie on Unreal Engine 4 and it's going to be great or is great already.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've played student games in Unreal Engine 4 that look significantly better than this movie. And they're also games. Like, they function as a video game. I can't fucking believe this movie.
I also already found, like, a beautiful film that was done in Unreal Engine 4 that I will share with you privately. So it can be done. It is possible. Unreal Engine 4 is a very powerful tool. I'm just going to say right now, I have seen better looking student films made with the same or fewer number of people, with, like, Maya 2009.
Ooh.
And whatever, like, lighting software and render engines were available to us via school. Like, made on laptops better than what happened here.
That doesn't shock me at all. This was a fucking nightmare to look at.
Yeah, from the first second that anything of this production is shown, it's hot garbage. It is just hot chaff. It's gross.
It looks like a Windows 95 screensaver.
It's so bad.
I cursed your fucking heart while I was watching this movie.
That's okay. There are already so many curses placed upon myself in my life that I've just kind of assumed responsibility for all curses at this point.
I'm very proud of you.
Yeah.
Because I have many curses to give.
Good. Looping back real quick, before we get into the plot summary and notes on this movie, we need to remind you that this is supposed to be a film that's hoping to cash in on the Disney Pixar film Finding Dory. Izzie's Way Home was released in May of 2016, a month prior to Finding Dory, which was released in June 2016. So, I didn't see Finding Dory.
This makes Finding Dory look like Casablanca. Finding Dory is not a great movie, but holy shit, it's leagues and, like, infinite leagues above this film.
Okay. Having never seen it, I can only assume that it has the exact same plot and general characters that we are going to discuss now.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, it's got a jive talking sea cucumber.
Okay.
All
what?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
So, Izzie's Way Home opens on Izzie, a fish. She lives with her father Harold in an aquarium and is frequently bullied by the other fish that live in their tank because she is born with a severe birth defect. The skin around her eye is a lighter white color than the rest of her scales. Thus, she is bullied forever.
It would be like having freckles. Yeah. Not really.
It'd be like having a port wine stain on your face. Like, ooh, big deal.
Yeah. Like, kids are mean. Oh, we actually get to see the birthing of these fish children. And they make it seem like all of the fish children are Harold's. Like, weirdly, nobody else is excited about their fish children. The voice acting is garbage. The fish models are garbage. The whole production is garbage. And this is maybe 15 seconds in. And people continue to say Norm of the North is the worst animated film of all time. Whoever fucking says that clearly has not heard or seen of Izzie's Way Home. Whoever says Norm of the North is the worst animated film of all time needs to watch Izzie's Way Home. There's no way that you could look at both of these films and just go, Izzie's Way Home is better.
God, no. The movie opens the exact same way Finding Nemo does, with the worried dad hovering over his egg that isn't hatching. It's amazing how immediately they get into the rip-off game. They didn't even try.
But there's no barracuda yet. There's a barracuda later. Sorry.
That's true. And the fish are so fucking ugly. The eyes aren't perfect spheres. They are very heavily polygoned, and they don't blink. Their eye sockets just kind of warp around their eyeballs, and the mouths don't match. And sometimes they have teeth, and sometimes they don't. I think the teeth go away after this opening scene, but if you look in Harold's mouth, he sure does have teeth in this scene.
Yeah, and they're like the solid model U shape of teeth, so there's no like definition in the teeth, which honestly, I think if they had like real defined teeth, it would be more horrifying. But yeah, that being said,
the U teeth are at least cartoony, and they're just fucking clipped into his mouth, so it's not anything, but it was awful to look at.
Yeah. There's a moment, well, there's several moments, and it keeps happening for the rest of the movie. The background like clips in, like it's loading in real time, and there's a human model that they call Human. It's like the captain of the boat that has the aquarium on it. This human model does not walk. He skater mats the fuck into every scene he is in. And if no one's seen Skater Matt, real quick summary of whatever Skater Matt is. Somebody was like, can we make an animated thing with the character not being rigged? So what they did is the character model is in T-pose, does not move out of T-pose, and is on roller skates so that he can move in and out of scenes without walking. And that's what this character does in the background.
My roommate happened to walk through the living room while I was watching this movie, and he goes, Mel, that guy didn't walk. He just moved. And I couldn't believe that in the 12 seconds he saw the movie, he saw the worst animation error that you could possibly see in a CG film.
There are worse. Like, who made this? Sorry.
Made this.
I can't. Basically, so Izzie hatches, and all of the adult fish are just like this disgusting, horrific, mutated fuck, and they're like visibly disturbed. Well, I would say visibly disturbed. The script has them disturbed because these fish don't really have faces that can express emotion. Sadly, I mean, it is what it is.
They emote with their top eyelids. So
with their top eyelids and whatever is written in the script. Like, honest to God, this script is so on the nose. But if we didn't have it this on the nose, I would not know what's going on. It's like we compliment the subtle acting choices of animated movies. Like, there was like 2 seconds of Barnyard where I was like, oh, look, an acting choice displayed through subtle animation. But we don't get that here. So if it's not said in the script, the audience isn't getting it because you've just got terror fish.
You have no way of knowing what they're feeling.
In short, the script is like, your child is disgusting. You have to leave. And this fish, whose name I believe is Thurston. Oh boy. Okay. That was almost really bad. I thought it was after the tech director. Thurston, the fish, who is like the angry, evil fish. He's like a cross between Scar and Frollo.
Oh, he's horrifying.
Oh, he's awful. And he's basically just like, you can either live in isolation with your fucking deformed ass ugly child, or you can get out of the aquarium forever. So Harold chooses, yeah.
Thurston gives no fucks, and Harold is a good father because he wants to protect Izzie from being returned to the ocean by their awful human who maintains the aquarium. He gets rid of any fish that is visibly different because he's a racist. And
he's also a white fish.
Yeah.
Which is great.
The reason that Harold knows that Izzie will be scooped up and returned to the ocean is because that's exactly what happened to his wife, Izzie's mother, who was apparently returned to the ocean for being similarly disfigured. Rude.
So later in this movie, like way later, like towards the last 5 minutes of it, I came to a realization that I'm going to voice now. I think Thurston hates Izzie and Harold because Thurston wanted to fuck Izzie's mom, but Izzie's mom picked Harold instead, and so he hates them because he didn't get any of that sweet, sweet fish. I can't end that in any way.
You mean that he didn't get to jizz all over the eggs that Izzie's mom laid?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, it really saved the joke. That whole bit has to stay in.
I'm a fish sexologist.
I'm not.
That's why I'm qualified to write the summary for this movie.
Because there is no summary for this movie. You should edit the Wikipedia page when we're done.
God, no. This is awful writing. These people...
Okay, I'll edit the Wikipedia page when we're done.
Fine. While Izzie lives in the tank, she is determined to have a normal fish life. Meanwhile, Harold is determined to keep her hidden so she doesn't get scooped up and sent to the ocean. Like a good parent. Any good parent would want their child to not get scooped into the ocean. But the mean tween fish that live in the tank lure Izzie out of her father's care by promising she can go play games with them. They're hoping to get her detected by the human because they're mean. Harold pulls Izzie back and tries to talk some sense into her, only for Thurston to push Izzie directly into the line of sight of the human, prompting the human to dump both Izzie and Harold out into the ocean.
Yeah, Thurston does not fuck around.
No, at least the tween fish, had a plan and were doing a thing. Thurston had no fucks to give and shoved Izzie into her death.
Yeah, they keep repeating this lesson and moral, and it's Harold saying, "Your mother once said it doesn't matter how you look, it matters what you do, but she was wrong!" And I'm like, whoa, dude, okay, just tell your daughter you think she's ugly, whatever.
In Harold's defense, all he knows is that his wife is in the ocean and presumed dead because she looked different. Harold only wants his daughter to continue living.
I guess. Speaking of the will to live and continuing to live, this movie is gross. Did we say that already? This movie looks awful. This movie has, no concept of the collision of objects.
I think if you took a counter of every clipping error in this film, you would easily come above 20 or 30.
Oh, far, far higher, in my opinion.
We wrote down at least 7 or 8 individually that we noted and were very angry about, which means there were many more that I just didn't bother to care about.
Mm-hmm. And the whole film is close-ups, because if they had to do wide shots, it would have required them to make more models, and they barely have models to begin with.
The fish, in the beginning, they're in a 2-foot tank, which is reasonable. Okay, fine, you're gonna have close-ups because you're on a small set and you wanted to feel claustrophobic. The rest of the movie is still close-ups because they didn't know how to make a movie.
And then we go in the ocean. It's like... No, to be fair, there are other movies that are entirely close-up, such as Les Mis.
Oh, thanks. Good. I wanted to think about Les Mis in this movie in the same sentence.
Well, now you fucking have to.
Thanks.
And if we're honest, Les Mis is only slightly better than Izzie's Way Home.
Yeah, that's fair. I respect that. Les Mis is not great.
I'll fucking fight people. So, yeah, fuck this fish tank, fuck these fish, fuck every single thing about this movie. It's awful.
Oh, additional proof that the lighting in this film is really bad.
Yes.
There's a scene during the sequence where Izzie's birthmark changes into just a series of pock marks on her face, and I was just enraged by the fact that her birthmark had entirely changed out of nowhere halfway through this film. It turned out the scene was just lit so poorly that her model no longer supported the color of the texture of her birthmark. When she went back into normal lighting situation, her birthmark came back.
See, my problem is that I saw that and just didn't care enough about this movie to, comment about it. If that makes any sense.
That's fair.
Yeah, it was definitely something I saw and I processed, and that was it. I was like, yep, that happened, and there's nothing I can do about it.
This is... You brought this upon me.
I did, and I have no regrets about it.
Shit.
I had to watch it too.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not like you were the only one that suffered. I want to know who the father of all these other teen girl fish are.
It's Thurston.
Okay, that makes sense. Fuck the water in this movie. It's gross as hell. They get thrown into the ocean, by the way. We mentioned that. Anyway, the water is gross as hell. So there's very clearly, like, no interaction between the fish and the water. Their models are just, like, throating. The models are just floating in 3D space, and they just kind of sometimes bob up and down, and that is how they move. So, like, they didn't understand water. Like, in Finding Nemo, they went, how do things move in water? We should do. And they did. And other movies do it slightly better that aren't obviously Pixar and shit. But this movie just went, fuck it, we don't need anything to look like water. It's just make them float. Like, there's no particle effects, there's no light filtering, there's nothing. It's just disgusting.
No, they're just in the water. There's no little bubbles when they move their tails. There's no any kind of effect that would imply that the water is there and very wet. It's just air.
outside of the really shitty sound design.
Oh, right. The sound design that only comes in when it's convenient for the sound design.
Correct. So basically it only comes in when, the fish are moving, or they're just like, there's gonna be a kind of jump scare, I guess. So they have this awful, like, reverb sound that I thought I thought my headphones were blowing out and I had my sound too loud. No, it's just the way the sound is.
Ew.
It's gross. The water is gross, so they're thrown out of the tank. Izzie and Harold are separated during the eruption of an underwater volcano. By the way, there's an underwater volcano. The
Big
boat,
deal.
Yeah, the boat holding the aquarium is also tipped over during this event. So all of the other terrible fish are dumped into the ocean. Real quick, the terrible fish are the 3 teen girl fish, their 3 mothers who get like 2 lines, and Thurston. So yeah, they're all in the ocean now. Sucks to be everybody. Izzie befriends April, a rockfish, while Harold is stuck with the other fish from the aquarium on the opposite side of the volcano. Izzie sets out with April to cross the volcano and reach the coral reef, which is the center for seemingly all fish life. Now, this volcano is in the center of a circular-esque lagoon. Just swim the fuck around it.
That's a really solid point that this movie never bothered to think of.
I did not think about it until just now, reading that out.
Yeah, why didn't they just swim around the volcano? Could they not just do that?
Would it take too long?
They're just fish.
I know, but, like, this lagoon isn't big. It doesn't take them, like, a week to do this. It's not like Finding Nemo where multiple days pass.
But it's also not like Finding Nemo where they bother to establish fucking anything.
It's just like, yep, we have to go all the way to Sydney, Australia. And people are like, ooh, Sydney is far.
Yeah, P. Sherman Wallaby Way, Sydney, Australia. I know all these things because Finding Nemo is a movie that was produced with a script.
P. Sherman 42, Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Yeah.
You forgot the 42.
Okay, fine. At any rate, I knew where it was in Sydney, whereas in this movie, I knew where the underwater volcano was.
Yeah, so there was, like, one good scene in this, dare I say, where the lighting and everything was okay, and it was the underwater volcano shots.
Oh, is it?
There were, like, actual particle effects for a hot second.
That's fair. I was too distracted by Izzie screaming, "Daddy!"
Oh, yeah, and Izzie's accent? Do we know what the whole fucking thing with that is?
No, not in the least.
I'm trying to remember what the accent she was trying to do was, because it sounded vaguely familiar. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I've got nothing.
Fucking. It sounds like she's trying to do an accent similar to another accent that she's heard, and it's really, really awful.
It's very terrible.
Yeah. It's like Boston-esque? Basically, she has an accent that nobody else in the movie does. Yeah, so April is like rescues Izzie because Izzie's stupid, and April's like, grab my fin, and Izzie just clips the fuck through it. It's great.
It's very, very good. This is considering that, of course, there's no facial animation. The fish are just floating there and kind of being thrown around while the camera whips around this underwater volcano. All you have to go on is the yelling.
It's delightful. I honestly don't think they had these models rigged to move, because only the mouths and the tails and sometimes the fins move okay. But there's nothing about these models that would indicate that they are rigged beyond that.
No, it's actually impressive now that you mention it that they don't squash and stretch ever. The fish don't move.
Well, you have to work that into a rig.
This film inspired a lot of feelings in me. I paused it here at this critical plot juncture and realized I had only watched 18 minutes of an hour and 17-minute long movie.
Similarly, I paused it at 20 minutes and my reaction was, Jesus, how is this not over?
The Wikipedia summary was only 4 sentences, and we were most of the way through it by this point in my note-taking. I was very angry to find out that I had to write the plot summary to Izzie's Way Home.
So sorry.
You're fine.
So on the other side of the volcano from Izzie and April, voiced by Tori Spelling, I believe, Harold and the aquarium gang befriend a sea cucumber named Carl, who agrees to help them track Izzie down. April has trouble keeping Izzie from committing very friendly suicide, and she brings her to meet her band of equally terrible-looking fish who are also going to go to the reef. I wasn't truly reading your plot summaries until now. Basically, what is attempting to be conveyed here is Izzie is a very inquisitive child fish, and she just wants to explore all these new things. And April is like, no, stop. That'll fucking kill you, you fucking moron.
Yeah, very friendly suicide. 100% accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have called it that, but basically.
That's why they pay me the big podcasting bucks.
That whole sweet, sweet exposure money.
Exactly. I'm going to talk about Carl, my favorite character in this movie, who is voiced by Joey Fatone. Carl is a sea cucumber. Initially, my note said, sea cucumber, ? Shrimp, ? This is later cleared up by a line of dialogue, and thus I cleaned up the plot summary. Quality. Carl has many legs, but he just floats. His arms deform and wiggle. He doesn't actually have any bones or a structure rigged to him. And he's very appealing in the face. He's kind of goofy looking. He's got face that could express something if they chose to rig it to do anything. But his character just turntable turns when he has to move. It's hilarious.
He
just moves.
Yeah, they just rotate him. It's Carl. We don't really get a close-up of Carl for a while because he's disgusting and he does just float around. And when they're figuring out what he is, the one teenage girl fish, Jenny, says, I know what you are. You're just gross. And I was like, wow. And then I make note of the evil sound effect. Yeah. What?
Were you a voice actor in this movie? Because that was 100% accurate to what the teen fish sounded like.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot of voice acting that goes on here. There's also an evil sound effect that I mentioned previously that just blows out my fucking ears every time it plays. And it's like they took the Inception noise and just turned it up and recorded the sound over the speaker. So somebody played it on their laptop, somebody else recorded it on their iPhone, and then they uploaded that sound bit from their iPhone directly to like the sound editor.
That's a beautiful headcanon.
You know, I don't really have like a headcanon for the movie itself here. I have a headcanon as to how the production went.
Somehow I'm still finding the energy to get angry about these models, because when we meet the other ugly fish, none of them have rigged mouths. Their mouths don't even move. And I'm still... Jesus!
It's bad.
They talk, it just does a close-up on them and their mouth like barely stretches to imply that maybe they're talking.
So the rigger for this movie was an animator as well.
Wow, I bet they didn't come to work most of the time.
Wow, don't say that about a guy whose name I've already forgotten that I connected on LinkedIn with.
You polluted your LinkedIn.
I love it. I'm not even mad about it, honestly, because these are now professional connections. So, okay, I was going to save this for later. Now that I've mentioned that the rigger was also an animator, but I feel like this guy is an animator first and rigger second, I looked at some of his work. It's better than Izzie's Way Home.
Really?
Here's what happens in movies. No, we have to save this. I can't, because I'll just go into it. These fish are all gross, and not in the way that it is intended they're supposed to be gross. You've got a goblin shark and a blobfish, which are not pretty creatures, but they're not ugly. These fish are supposed to be ugly because of what they are, which is wrong. They're ugly because they just are poorly fucking designed. They're gross. It took me a minute to realize that blobfish was a blobfish.
Without the dialogue, I wouldn't be able to tell you what was going on in this movie, or what kind of animals any of them were.
I just knew immediately what a goblin shark was, and what a blobfish was. Also, seahorses are ugly?
No, the seahorse was ugly because she was fat.
Oh, the seahorse is fat. Oh, so now we're making statements about fat people.
Yes, we're making statements that we should accept fat people for being fat.
Okay. So April is trying to get everybody to go with her and Izzie to the coral reef, because for some reason, none of these fish want to go to the coral reef, or have never wanted to leave their cave, which...
They're ashamed.
Yeah, but why would they be ashamed? It's literally just them.
There's other fish at the coral reef. The implication is that if they go to the coral reef, they will be made fun of for being different.
That's fair. So April's like, guys, you should come with us. And there's this huge, 10-minute long, or it feels like 10-minute long argument that ensues. It shouldn't even be an argument. Just fucking leave without them. Also, the light and the shadows are clipping around because I think they were trying to go for that light filtering on the bottom of the ocean floor, thing. But they weren't getting it at all. It was terrible.
No, this effect comes up later in the movie, and it animates on the twos, and by animates,
multiple times.
It changes. It just changes.
Multiple times this happens.
It looks like they're at a rave.
Yeah, it's bad.
This sequence where they talk to each other is very much Video Brinkado, where it is just characters standing around having a conversation that
lip flapping. Anywhere. Oh yeah, I also I'm pretty sure I fell asleep for parts of this movie. This being one of them.
Oh, thank God you did, though. You didn't miss anything.
Yeah,
because Carl and Harold swap stories of losing their children. It's weird, and it's sad, and it's so weird, and it's so sad, and we don't really get an answer for how Carl lost his entire family. Carl and Harold are caught by crabs, and they're saved by a friendly octopus. It's great.
So, Carl has a gold chain on, and it's like in Shark Tale, where Will Smith fish has a gold chain on, but there's no actual chaining. It's just gold dots that float around him. Except in this case, Carl's gold chain is painted directly onto him as part of his texture.
Oh, is that what that was supposed to be?
I think so. Based on how it's designed, I think so. We also get a moment where Izzie sees her own reflection, and I feel like it's the first time she's ever seen her reflection because she's immediately horrified by it.
Fair. I'd be horrified too if I were in this movie.
Honestly, same.
Izzie and her weird friends are then chased down by a lionfish, and they use their special uniqueness to their advantage, chasing him off. Izzie loses some additional scales and feels sad about it, so we get the big, feel good about yourself despite your looks message of the film. Izzie and April are then somehow separated from the group, and are saved from a mean-ass dolphin by the same friendly octopus, who points them to the volcano to meet up with Harold and Carl.
Jimmy 8-Legs really gets around.
Is that his name? Did you just make that up?
No, that's his real name.
All right.
Yeah, all these fish are really, really, really insecure. And I'm not here for it because, like, I'm already insecure enough. I don't need these fish to remind me about how awful I feel about myself.
These fish bitching about themselves is a solid 20 minutes of this film, and it's so depressing, and it brought me down, and it just made me think about how much myself and that fat seahorse could vibe together on how gross we are.
Oh my god, same.
Like, I feel you, girl. I also love to eat, and then I hate myself.
I made a lemon meringue pie just earlier. I've got bagel dough rising, and I'm gonna eat fucking hot ramen for dinner.
Yes!
Carbs, 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 carbs. Also, I made bread yesterday.
You are a delicious carb queen.
I am the queen of carbs. Yeah, so the octopus's name is actually Jimmy 8-Legs. Carl and Harold lost Izzie's trail for some reason, even though it's like a trail of purple shiny scales, which kind of hard to lose. And Jimmy 8-Legs, there's this moment where he's like, is this the trail? And he rubs his leg tentacle thing across the ground, or I think it's supposed to be across the ground. Nothing changes about the ground texture. There are no particle effects to indicate that he is stirring up the ground. It is just somebody animated a single tentacle going back and forth and back and forth. They didn't move the tentacle at all. It's literally going left and right and left and right. Nothing changes. And I kept closing my eyes and hoping that something would change, but nothing did. Like, for most of this whole actually, I think for the entirety of the sequence, I kind of fell asleep. I was in like that half asleep state. You know, where you can still hear and process, but your eyes are closed and you're resting.
Oh, yeah. I feel that. I was too busy being so angry. The greatest effect in this movie, and by that I mean the worst. Well, the good effect in this film is there's a school of fish that whizzes by, and it's actually well done because it's just a bunch of teeny, teeny, tiny fish that swim by. It looks good. It's basically a particle effect. One good thing in this film. The worst thing in this film comes directly after, in which Harold and Carl look at a shiny piece of glass and see their reflections. The reflections are at like 6 frames a second and are insanely low rendered. It's shameful how bad it is. It looks like an old PC game.
I really kind of liked in the very beginning of the movie, there's a scene where there are flying fish and there's literally just fish like static in the air.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about those. We're talking about how awful this movie looks.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And
so instead of just swimming around the volcano like a normal fish or like, you know, a normal person, Izzie uses the volcano's jets to fly across it and get to the side of the ocean where Harold is. Harold, not finding Izzie, turns on Carl and leaves with the aquarium fish to find the boat right before Izzie gets to him. Carl and Izzie meet up and he fills her in on where Harold and the others went. Izzie's group and Harold's group meet up at the coral reef. The aquarium fish refuse to accept the undesirables and try to push them out, leaving the reef to find their old boat when a dangerous black water snake shows up. This is where I acknowledge and admit that I fell asleep for a solid 10 minutes. And Harold has a line of, "Home is wherever my daughter is." That's nice. He immediately then goes to fucking abandon her, give her up for dead, and try and find this boat with the people that have abused him for years.
Yeah.
Good times.
That's fair. When Izzie jumps out of the water, it's not like she has a wetness texture on her or water splooshes out behind her in a neat little trail. Her model's just in and then out of the water and then back in again as though nothing has happened.
You cannot even tell whether she's in or out of the water. I didn't understand what they were going for because there's no way to know what the fuck is going on.
No, this film has nothing.
It honestly, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. There's a castle?
It's from their aquarium.
That's a huge-ass castle. That is not a 2-foot aquarium-ass castle.
Fine. I don't know. Maybe it's Atlantis.
Basically, there's a castle model, and neither of us are quite sure where it came from.
I assumed it was from the aquarium. Maybe it's just an Aquaman crossover.
See, that's... yeah. We get more of that flickering on the ocean floor, and the scale of things does not matter. I swear the scale of everything in this movie has changed about 6 times.
Not in the least. And especially not when this black snake shows up. Everyone just seems incredibly small compared to this giant cobra, in essence, that's chilling in the water. It doesn't look like any animal. I thought it was an eel, but it's very clearly supposed to be a snake with fangs and everything. Who knows? But the ugly fish and Carl work together to save Izzie after she sacrificed herself to save the nastiest teen fish. Izzie's a good person. The teen fish... The teenage fish stop being bitches for 5 minutes and help out defeating the water snake. Out of nowhere, Izzie's mother Clara shows up and they have a happy family reunion. Also, Clara is the queen of the coral reef. This is not explained. We all learned a lesson about loving ourselves. Roll the credits.
Yeah, So there's like a weird flickering in the eyes of the characters. Also, I understood that it was a snake.
Okay. Oh, yes, he had a snake chest and snake teeth, but what the fuck? What is this snake? Why not just use another ocean animal?
No, there are aquatic snakes.
Fine. Why not use
I watched a lot of Animal Planet back because they already used eels for something else.
Oh my god.
We need new individual character models. There is an animator who included one of the snake shots in their reel, and they were very proud of the fact that it was like 761 frames with 3 characters in the shot that they animated in a day.
Oh,
and I was like,
no,
that's not how you know. Like,
honey, no.
That should have been your blocking pass. Like, it's bad.
That's like some unrealistic expectations of labor bullshit.
It's not work that you should be proud of. If you did that in a day, great, but don't put that day on your reel. Like, that's not...
No. And it would have been one thing if they said, I did this pass, and did not mention that it was the final scene from the film.
Even as a first pass.
As a first pass done in a day, fine.
This is where my theory about Thurston wanting to fuck Izzie's mom came in, and he's still pissed that Izzie is Harold's daughter and not his. The snake moves pretty nicely compared to everybody else, and everyone else just watches Izzie swim for her life, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're just like, yeah, sure, whatever, fucking let her die.
So Carl found his kids, I guess. They all slide onto screen right at the end. It's very funny. They all just slide right onto the screen. It's not covered for more than a second. All Carl says is, I have my family too. And then they start talking about the long ass lesson about loving yourself or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
So the film ends and it rolls the credits, and you see the 2D character designs, which are very clearly done in Photoshop by someone who's an okay illustrator. I think I could just as quickly bang out these 2D drawings of some mediocre cartoon fish. But the 2D drawings, even though they're of meh quality, so much better than the rest of this movie.
I'm fairly certain that some of the things in this film were named after the technical director, Rob Thornton. like the reef. I think it was Thornton Reef, but I am not 100% positive on that now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, this is where I started to do the deep dive, because you said the shitty 2D art is better than the entire movie, and I was watching the credits, and I realized the credits were very, very short. And I dug a little bit deeper. I went in and looked up every single artist on this movie. I discovered that the character designer was the director, and also he was an animator. I discovered that they had a render wrangler on this movie. And looking through all of these artists, I discovered that their work, for a majority of them, is better than what this film looks like. I don't know, well, I know what happened. I looked at Reels, I looked at Instagrams, I looked at ArtStations. They can do so much better. And some of it was, of course, newer than 2016, but there's no way, unless they maybe it is possible to go from Izzie's Way Home to the work I saw in a single year. But watching their reels and watching their, and looking at their work, I was just like, how did you make something that looks this bad? And there was only one person that I had found that had worked extensively at the Asylum before, and I'm just going to say it's Sacha Burrow. He's the director, animator, and character designer. His name is directly listed, so it's not like people can't just look at the credits to Izzie's Way Home and just be like, wow, this Sacha Burrow person really gets around in these credits.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
No, I think that it was the time constraint. They must have made this movie on such an insanely short amount of time, based on the fact that one of the largest scenes in the film with this snake and all the characters moving around was done in a day by one guy.
Hey, parts of it were done in a day. Don't shit on this movie. Shit on this movie all you want. It doesn't matter.
I was just gonna say, we spent the last hour shitting on this movie. What am I gonna do? Take this hour back?
No. Here's what kind of happens with movies like this. And here is what I believe is the downfall. You have to match the work of the worst person on the team. So if you have a range of artists, if you have somebody who's Pixar level, if you have somebody who's mid-level, and if you have somebody who made Izzie's Way Home, and all these artists have to work together on something, you have to equal out. You can't have one shot that's absolutely gorgeous followed up by a shot from Izzie's Way Home. So you really have to average out your work. So you can't have one person stand out more because of how trash everything looks. So when your weakest link is really, really weak, everybody has to match it. It doesn't matter how good you are as an artist. You have to match that level of bad.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot.
God damn. That, it really churned out a depressingly terrible movie.
It did. Do you want to read some reviews? Do you want to pick one?
I pulled some quotes from reviews of Izzie's Way Home. There weren't a lot on the internet because no one but me had subjected themselves to seeing this fucking movie. But
I watched it.
Yes, you did. And I love you for that. But poor Andrea Breach from Common Sense Media had to watch this to see if it was okay for kids. And here's what she had to say. Preschoolers may not be bothered by the eerily lifeless eyes, stilted animation, and dull or downright confusing backgrounds of Izzie's Way Home, but with so many other choices out there that are beautiful, engaging, and enriching, there's absolutely no reason to spend any time with this movie.
I was hoping that there would be some trivia that I could just trash, but there isn't. Is there a parental guide?
There's nothing. There is no information. The Amazon reviews of this movie are fantastic because if you look at the 1-star reviews, it's mostly angry parents saying, "My kid hated this. It sucked. This is terrible. Don't watch it." But then, about half of the reviews are 5-star reviews, and they all boil down to this. My grandchild loved this movie. We watched it together, and it made me so happy and sad because it was so cute.
I'm just kind of reading. Oh. So, there are 2 reviews of this listed on the Internet Movie Database. I just wanted you to know that in the German review, they call the Asylum Films trash. Let me see. The production company, the Asylum, which makes, I would translate this as trash movies, but I think it's trash pictures, such as Sharknado. And there's no quality control to their films, and they should be ashamed that this is their first film. It's also produced in California. They call out that it's supposed to be a copy of Finding Dory, and they tell people to generally avoid it at all costs.
The Germans know what's up.
This is me doing like the best translation I can here, so sorry everybody. That article exists on IMDb if anybody reads German faster than me and really wants to partake in that review and enrich themselves in some German culture and opinions.
Yes. Yes, you can. You can also enrich yourself by choosing to not watch this film. My review and ranking of this film would be as follows. Made me genuinely angry. Bottom of this season.
You know, I cannot disagree with that because I feel like there's nothing that we can watch that would be worse.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that out there right now. I think we've opened with the worst episode of this season already. I think we're done. We're good. We've seen the worst movie. It's all uphill from here, people.
We did the inverse of what we did last season, where Strange Magic was like the runaway favorite at our second episode and everything else was disappointing. We have now inverted that and we have watched the worst film first, so it can only be uphill from here.
Yes, it's true. It can only be uphill from here. So, while you are planning on listening to animated opinions for the rest of this season, be sure to support our newest sponsor, Fandible. You've heard of Audible. Fandible is the fan fiction offshoot of Audible, in which we read you such lovely fan fictions as the fan fiction in which, checks notes, side character Izzie from Rocket Power enters a relationship while also having amnesia, or my favorite fanfiction in which your personal favorite My Little Pony tells you what an awful human you are while you enslave them due to some kind of magical portal ripping open into Earth. Fandible is a fantastic service that allows you to hear, with your ears, all of the lovely writing that's been put onto the page. And fear not, if you think that you won't be able to hear all of the typos and poor grammar, Fandible makes sure to have those clearly denoted in the audio recording, so you're not missing a second of that lovely, non-professional amateur content.
I think my favorite fan fictions, top 3, we've got My Immortal, which is the bad Harry Potter fan fiction, and then Legolas by Laura. And in third place, closely, like very, very narrowly beating out the Gollum and Treebeard go on a date fanfiction. In third place is the fanfiction in which Snape and Jesus fuck in Snape's office.
If you'd also like to consider leaving this planet, please be sure to enter in our offer code. Emily is perverted and needs to stop reading fanfiction on Fandible.com, and she will come to your house and personally read you some of these terrible, terrible fanfictions. And you get to personally tell her why you think she is one heck of a human being.
For the low cost of 99 cents a night, you can have me come whisper a chapter of My Immortal in your ear just as you drift off to sleep.
Have lovely nightmares with our fantastic audio fanfiction service. Fandible, the only Asmar you'll need.
I hate our podcast.